to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah.
we don't want to just talk about the frilly frou-frou stuff in relationships all day long. Like you and I actually have some really deep rooted things that we want to talk about. We want to talk about the stuff that's going on in our children's schools and how it's very questionable the direction that they're pushing our kids into. We want to talk about that. But there's a fear of like, oh my gosh, are we going to get taken down? Like, are we going to be put in a position where we're not going to be able to express ourselves?
Right. Are you going to be put in social media jail?
Right.
Pretty much. Right?
Exactly.
Are you going to be taken down? There's so many content creators out there that I feel are getting targeted. Right. I follow some of them and they'll come on sometimes and say, I'm in Facebook jail now. Sorry, guys. I can't post anything for the next 10 days or until I get, out.
Right.
What? What is that? What do you mean you can't post anything? Welcome to the WomenHood Lectures, where we bring you topics and discussions on issues that matter to you, the modern day woman. I'm Yasmin.
And I'm Lyra. Please like and share and subscribe to our podcast. We are on YouTube, Rumble, as well as Spotify in podcast form. With that, let's start our show.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about...
we're actually talking about free speech today. So I know it may not seem like a specifically women-centered topic, but it does affect women.
Absolutely.
It affects everybody. And I do think that there's some really interesting things going on in society right now, especially in North America, in Canada, all around this issue of free speech.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really interesting because we have some legislation around this now, especially for online, what you can say online, what you can express.
Right. Here in Canada.
Online, here in Canada, for sure.
Yes, we do.
I do think that a lot of things also get taken down from social media, from people in the States as well. So this is happening, in both America and Canada. But we definitely here in Canada I'm noticing that the
there's
free
a lot more control.
Speech movement is really under the gun.
Under the gun.
Yeah.
So what's our position? My position is this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a saying by Voltaire which says, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And I believe that freedom of speech is very important, especially in this day and age, when there's a lot of things coming at us that kind of questions where we stand, where our moral ground is, what we're willing to say is good or bad, because that's what censorship is. Censorship is we're going to censor these things from you because it causes this or offends this person or this group. I don't think the people that are in control are really considering who they're directing that at. I think that it is one-sided.
Yep.
I think in the last 4 years, we've really been thrown for a loop. And there's a lot of things that we thought, well, I have a question about this and I have a question about that. And as moms, especially what we endured with our children, we had a lot of questions. We had a lot of questions raised. And if you went online and you said something about it, I mean, you were just attacked. Left, right, and center. There's times that I've seen articles be published in the US on social media that I did not have access to because we are here in this country, right?
Absolutely.
So I question that. I question the availability of resources, like of information. Is information available to everybody? Is it free speech? Is it really free speech? Is the information that we receive controlled? What is misinformation and who decides that? I mean, that's always been kind of my question.
And that's the big thing, right? Who is making the decisions on what's misinformation, disinformation? These words are new.
They are new.
Like this is all new stuff in the last 4 years.
Yes.
And yeah, I have the same questions. I'm thinking, so who gets to decide that information is incorrect? Like I'm looking at things as if something is, say, disinformation or misinformation, then you're telling me it's incorrect. You're telling me it's not true.
Right.
Where is the tell me how you're backing that statement up.
But there's fact checkers.
Who are these fact checkers?
And where are they from?
Right.
And what news resource do they use?
Who hired them? Who's paying them?
Exactly.
This is life. We understand as human beings, like if someone is getting paid from a specific company, of course they're going to have a specific view, a specific skew on what they're looking for, right? So yeah, fact checkers, I don't know who they are. I don't know who made you a fact checker on everything. Are you an expert in medicine and an expert in law and an expert on, sociology? Like, how does that even happen?
Right.
So that's interesting to me.
So do you think that a lot of people understand that? Or do you think that there's people who are like, hey, listen, what you said is misinformation and it's been fact checked by such and such organization, which is reliable. Do you believe that people really believe that? Like, do you think that people are waking up to maybe the fact that it may or may not be true?
I think a lot of people are questioning more now.
Okay.
And then there's a whole group of people who are just going about their business and saying, oh, okay, that's wrong. And not even thinking about it, not looking further into it. You and I think happen to be pretty discerning, very curious people. So when someone says something, I'm very open to hearing it. And then I'm very open to also researching, is that correct or not?
Yes.
I think that it's my right to be able to research something and to be able to see what conclusion do I come to. But I want to know that all the evidence and all the facts have been presented to me. And that's what I'm not trusting these days.
The information.
Yeah. So if someone's delineating this information, then I'm not getting the whole picture, right? And if I'm not getting the whole picture, then how can I possibly make a stand, an opinion, a decision if I'm only getting a certain few pieces of the puzzle? And I think that's where I'm having a hard time with the things that are going on, particularly online. I feel like people are also being really careful about what they say in their everyday lives to people that they meet.
I know. And
Don't
you know
you
what?
think so?
I'm guilty of it. A lot of it has to do with kind of balancing my business and then balancing my own personal experience and obviously delving into politics and, the whole 9 yards. I am heavily into all of that stuff. But I had to control my thoughts and I had to control my expression because, there was just one thought process and one idea that was constantly being, ridiculed and made fun of. And I find that, if you shared that view, then you were seen as, misinformation, disinformation. But on that note, I mentioned something online, which was about, electric vehicles. I am not for or against, okay? But I think that if we were to, as a human population, all drive electric vehicles, I think that that's a huge step and it's a lot of work and it actually does use a lot of fossil fuels in order to do that. Anyways, I got demonetized on one aspect of my social profile. So it got me thinking, I can't even talk about something that I'm thinking, even though it is
and
true.
It wasn't, and so I'm curious.
So I was fact checked.
You were fact checked. Okay. And then
but
what
the fact
happened?
check wasn't actually any facts. It was more, according to this paper or this newspaper article, there was no actual facts. There was no actual studies or articles of any type of journals that actually supported.
Were presented to you.
Right.
To say your statement is incorrect.
Right.
Okay.
But it wasn't my statement. It was basically just a meme,
Yeah.
But the joke is that, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to express your point of view or your opinion. But even though it may be based on fact, if it goes against the narrative that they're trying to support or push, then all of a sudden you're demonetized or taken off the platform.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've talked about that on our show. You and I have very strong opinions, and, maybe we're concerned that maybe we would be based on our thought processes because they aren't aligned with the narrative, right?
Like the current narrative. There are words that 100% there are words that you cannot use online or your video will be taken down.
Right.
There are things that you have to be really careful about what you talk about, how you word things, what you say, what your opinion is. And to me, that's not free speech.
It's not free speech.
I should be able to say what I want to say about a topic, and you can wholeheartedly disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. And I think that is really the only way to truth is to allow people to do that, is to allow people to say, well, I think this. Well, I think that. We're way on different spectrums. What makes you think this and what makes you think that? That's the way to get to critical thinking. That is the way
Exactly.
that you figure out where is the truth in the middle of that. And sometimes there isn't necessarily one only truth
Right.
in a situation. There can be different perspectives and all can be correct, right? Depending on how you look at something. And I think that's okay too. I think people's minds just get blown when they're like, oh, two things can be happening at the same time. Yes, they can. Look at two sides of a coin. There's a head, there's a tail. It's a coin.
Right.
We can agree that it's still a coin.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So I kind of feel like there's a lot going on. And I mean, even legislatively in Canada, there's bills that have been passed. Like last year, around this time, April, I think 2023 was the Online Streaming Act. That was Bill C-11. That became law. And that was really looking at making sure that there are Canadian content requirements now for social media and media. And so this year, what that in conjunction with what's being read right now in Parliament in Canada is the Online Harms Act, which is Bill C-63. It's gone to second reading, and what they're looking at now is content moderation. Moderation of your content.
It's so interesting because you and I want to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah.
we don't want to just talk about the frilly frou-frou stuff in relationships all day long. Like you and I actually have some really deep rooted things that we want to talk about. We want to talk about the stuff that's going on in our children's schools and how it's very questionable the direction that they're pushing our kids into. We want to talk about that. But there's a fear of like, oh my gosh, are we going to get taken down? Like, are we going to be put in a position where we're not going to be able to express ourselves?
Right. Are you going to be put in social media jail?
Right.
Pretty much. Right?
Exactly.
Are you going to be taken down? There's so many content creators out there that I feel are getting targeted. Right. I follow some of them and they'll come on sometimes and say, I'm in Facebook jail now. Sorry, guys. I can't post anything for the next 10 days or until I get, out.
Right.
What is that? What do you mean you can't post anything? Right?
I think it's very important that we actually have this conversation though, because freedom of speech is very important for us right now in this generation, but we are going to change the lives of our children's generation by what we do now. We can sit back and just allow it to happen and say, you know what, whatever, the control is on our current government. Our systems are the way they are for a reason. This misinformation, disinformation, it's kind of like 1984, but we're just going to go with the flow because this is how things are now. This is the only way that we can control the scenario or the situation. Or we could stand up and say no. You and I are going to start talking about the stuff that really is important to us.
I think it's important for people to feel comfortable enough to be able to even just have the conversation.
Yes.
Why are you not allowed to question things? When did that become a thing?
Right.
Where you're just not allowed to question anything.
But even to just say what you think.
Yeah.
What's
Why
wrong
are you
with
not
that?
allowed to have an opinion?
Why can't you have an opinion? Why can't you have an opinion based on your own life experience?
Right.
Like you and I have experiences as mothers, but we have been raised a specific way. Right. And then we went through this journey together. The last 4 or 5 years, right? Especially with everything that's gone on in the world. It's been a little crazy for us. Like, we're not tinfoil hat wearers, but we are just regular people.
Yeah. Who notice.
Build our careers.
Absolutely.
Work our tails off, clean our house and cook and tend to our family. And here we are and we're saying, what is happening here? This does not feel normal.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel right. And because we questioned it, we were kind of thrown under the bus in certain situations. And we had to step back and say, you know what? We're not going to question anything. We're just not going to fight.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that just means I'm just not going to say anything out loud.
Right.
What does that do?
So we feel like you're basically just being muzzled in a totally different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a totally different way. I love that. I love all the code speak here. But I know what you're saying.
Sorry about the code speak.
Absolutely. And there's definitely but I think that it's becoming more and more blatant now. Yeah. I think it's becoming I see big content creators out there that are suddenly not off YouTube, for example, or off, Instagram.
Right.
For who knows, and given no reason at all. And that's the thing. It would be, I would almost say, at least let us know, what is it? What is the problem? What is it that in the content or that someone has said that is actually not factually correct, or maybe is harmful in some way. I mean, my gosh, it's such a slippery slope to say that, there's like hate speech, for example. What constitutes hate speech?
What does it? Yeah. What?
There are people who would say, you said something that I didn't like. That's hate speech. I feel, violated by what you said.
Right. Or offended by what you said.
Or offended by what you said. Okay, so be offended. You can be offended. No one's harming you. No one is doing anything to you. They're simply saying something out loud and you don't like it.
Right.
If you don't like something, then that's the time for you to get curious.
Right.
Not a time for you to shut down and try to ostracize the other. That's the way that our society is splitting. We're othering everybody who is not the same as us.
Yep.
And I'm for opening it up and allowing people to start looking at other people and listening to what they have to say and getting curious about it. That's it.
100%.
That's it.
100%. And where I stand on this, because I don't want to talk it to death, but where I stand on this, and I did mention the future, is that we're moving away from socialization. And that socialization is so important, right? Mm-hmm. And as we get into our little boxes and we're on our phones and we're communicating with, one-word answers. I know my teenagers do that, right? Mm-hmm. They just do like, okay and K. Yeah. And we're just cutting our conversations to shorten them. We're having less dialogue with each other. Mm-hmm. We're having less involvement as human beings to be able to say, you know what, you and I have different viewpoints, different opinions. I don't like you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And I'm going to go over here,
Yeah. And then you just end up in an echo chamber with 500 other people who...
If you do that.
Yes,
but if you don't, then you're cutting off a lot of people. You're cutting off community. You're cutting off, having relationships with people that can actually benefit you, because you learn when you're around people who don't have the same opinions as you.
Right.
And then we're teaching our kids to do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm probably guilty of it too. You kind of want to choose your children's friends or who they communicate with. But 9 times out of 10, when I ask them the question, they're just like, oh, I don't know. I didn't ask that question, because they don't care. They just want to be friends with who they want to be friends with. Right. So as adults, we could learn to just kind of adapt to their way of thinking, to say, I'm just going to talk to everybody. I don't care what your political opinion is. I don't care what you think about this or that. Let's just hang out. Let's just be friends. Let's support each other. Let's have support systems for each other as human beings, because we are going through a lot of these things
Absolutely. 100%. And the thing is, most human beings have more in common than they don't.
Exactly.
Right? You've said that before. I totally agree with that.
100%.
We're all facing very similar challenges in our lives. We all want the same things. We all want to be safe and happy. We want to get along with people. We just want to have healthy children and good relationships. Like, we all want a lot of the same things. And so I think that sometimes we get caught up in these nuances of, well, if you think that, and then we make these judgments, then that makes you this kind of person.
Right. Overall.
And I can't be around someone who's like that.
Right.
Why can't you?
Exactly.
That's the challenge of being human. Like, that's kind of that's what makes us so unique. It's our diversity. It's being different. It's being able to connect with each other and finding the things that actually help us to connect. Versus
Absolutely.
The things that separate us.
That separate us and bring us apart.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you can learn over the last 4 years, like, we're not meant to be locked up.
Oh gosh.
We're not meant to be, not amongst each other. We need to share in each other's lives and be a community, like a proper community where we don't pass judgment on another person, and we promote the freedom of speech. Promote it. This is very important. That we all be able to speak freely in Canada.
Yeah. Do you find, in your line of work, you probably come across people who have vastly different opinions on different things than you do, for example, right? How do they ever ask you? Do they ever ask your opinions on things? And
they do.
Yeah.
There's some people who I've had shared opinions with, for sure. Some people that don't, and I just do my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I won't really judge or anything. Like, I will listen to them till my ears bleed, but I will do what I need to do to get the job done. Right.
Yeah.
So just because they think differently than me, I wouldn't, of course I listen, and I take the time to tolerate and to say, okay, well, I definitely wouldn't think that, but you know what? Like, this is who they are, and they've developed themselves up to this point as an adult to think the way that they think. Who am I to step in and be like, you shouldn't think that way? Guess what? This book came out, and you should learn about this.
Right.
I can't force it on anybody.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be forced on me. That's the way I feel.
I agree.
So that's why I feel that, I can still have wonderful relationships with these people. I can. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be based on our thought processes and political ideologies.
Absolutely.
And whether or not we believe that, there's only two genders, things like that. Like, they just say like, it doesn't have to be based on that. It could be that we just like each other's company.
Yeah.
It could be that, we both like talking about real estate, or we both like talking about, places we've traveled to, or our cultures. There's other things that make us tick.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, that's all I push for.
So curiosity, have you lost any friends over the last 4 years?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you?
I would say I've very much been distanced from some of my friends.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't particularly, big or open or loud about how I felt about things, but the way I live my life speaks enough.
Yeah.
Speaks enough that you can tell like sort of what how I live and what I believe in. And I'm one of those people who, like you, I don't care if you think different things than I do, live a different lifestyle than myself. I think we're all just doing the best that we can with what we know and with our own experiences and what we've been given. 100%. I have so much compassion and capacity for people that the thing I think for me that was sort of hurtful over the past 4 years is that I realized how little capacity other people have for me.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So I kind of was like, I'd be totally fine with that.
Right.
Why is it such a big deal to you? And from that perspective, that was hard. Even family members, you really
a lot of families actually, separated with just because of thoughts, processes, and ideologies. But also it was hard to see your family members. Yep. And then, I lost my father during this time. So that was really tough for me. And, not being able to actually see him pass was really hard. So I know that a lot of people sit with that pain and, to add to all of that, to add fuel to the fire, you can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
You can't even express yourself. You can't even say, this is wrong. I don't know why these things are happening. What is happening to my family? What is happening to the situation? So I absolutely disapprove of, what's been happening in our country and what's been happening in the world.
There's a lot of divide. There's a lot of divide going on right now.
There is.
And I think there are people that are trying. They're trying to reach out and find others who share their views, just so that you have a little bit of a safety net.
Right.
Like, it's one thing for me to go through my life and say I can deal with anybody, but it's also nice for me to have a few close people that I can be completely open and honest with and not feel judged for whatever,
I have you.
I'm thinking. Yeah. Us and our massive opinions.
I know, it's so big. We do have a lot of opinions, but it's, it's gentle at the same time. It's not really aggressively like, we believe this and we're going to shove it down your throat.
Right.
It's more, we have lived experiences. We like to share our experiences, and we have thoughts. And we're able to critically think about everything that's been going on. Right.
So where do you think all this is going?
I have no idea. I honestly, I have nothing to say other than there was a time where my daughter was in the hospital, St. Joe's Hospital. It was around the time where, G20 summit was happening. So like all of downtown Toronto was like super empty and barren, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
I just remember not seeing any cars on the streets. It was really quiet. And I was reading 1984.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is like the worst timing to read this book.
Oh my goodness.
But I don't know. I don't know where it's going, but hopefully not in that direction, where speech is controlled to the point of no return. We have to get it back. We have to be able to express ourselves.
Yeah.
In a peaceful way. I'm not suggesting that we, in any way be violent about our thoughts. And, there are certain things that, when you talk about censorship, like there's some pretty obscene books right now in our children's schools that need to be eliminated. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I'm saying really and truly, freedom of speech is very important.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for younger people to see that kind of discourse? Like to be able to see that people can agree to disagree and that people can still get along, even if they're very, very different. They have different political views.
Yeah, that's what debate teams were about, right?
Yes,
like,
I
do you
don't
remember
see that
back in the
anymore.
day? Like debate teams, like that's what we were here for. We were here to debate each other and to come up with some thoughts and critical thinking of ways in which you can have some information to back it up. Some situations that have occurred, that you can talk about and debate with one another.
Yeah,
and then come to like who won the debate. Really and truly, it's who has the strongest, opinion, right? We're not even allowed to debate. We're not even allowed to sit at the table and debate each other anymore. Yeah. It's not even like we're not allowed to. We just don't. There's one opinion that flies.
It's interesting. I feel like we're being slowly socially conditioned to stop talking about things. Right. And you're just being kind of funneled into, well, just hang out with people who think the same as you. I mean, that's easy. Very easy to do, right? You can live in an echo chamber for the rest of your life.
Right.
You're not going to grow from that.
No.
And nothing really gets done, right?
So I think to end it off, we're really open to debate. Are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I'm not, sure, fact check me. I'll read the article.
I'll read it for sure.
If you show me something and you say, "Hey, this article says that," I will go and read it.
Yes, me too.
I will go and see.
I'm
happy to.
I will bow when I'm wrong, and
I will totally admit it. Absolutely.
You, but when I'm right,
when I'm right, I get to say that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. All right. Well, I love this talk. This was great.
It was really important that we got that out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because now what? You're just going to say whatever the hell you want next time, right?
Probably. Yes, I am.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. If you find value in our content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We will see you next time.
Bye.